Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. We're going to be covering open standards in Secure 9000 and what that really means. My name is Ashley Tusignot. I'm the Senior Product Manager for Software House Secure 9000. Our panelists today are going to cover open access control standards in Secure 9000. This includes OSDP for field level communications and the PLAI agent, our physical logical access interoperability, that's a tongue twister, for credential synchronization. We're also going to touch on the BACnet for sharing building management data to and from Secure 9000 for improved building efficiency. Our panelists today are Rick Foke, Director of Product Management, Enterprise Access Control, and Jason Willett, Head of Technology Business Development for Global Access Control and Video Solutions. Just note, the webinar is in listen-only mode because we are recording this session. If you do have questions, please enter it into the question box and we will facilitate those as we go. And I will now turn things over to Rick.
Thank you, Ashley. And again, don't be shy with the questions. Everyone, we'll stop periodically and get those answered as they go along. It tends to help break up the slides. So with that, let's get started. Open standards. I guess I'd want to start off with more of just a holistic view of what is an open standard. There's a lot of definitions circulating in the market these days. Open system, open architecture is one that we hear about, but in our view, an open standard has to meet these 4 criteria. It has to be publicly available without any NDAs being signed, if you will, or business agreements being signed. It has to be free of expenses or royalties. You can't have to pay for this thing. It has to be freely available. And it can't be maintained by a single company, right? You have to have it maintained by a standards body, a recognized standards body, that meets, that collaborates, that agrees, that has their own set of rules of engagement, okay? And finally, an open standard to be successful, this gets down to product management 101, has to solve a need. There has to be a need for this thing. Companies can't just get together and make a standard and say, hey, hope this thing works. Usually these things are driven by a market need, okay, that then spurs on a standards body to adopt the problem and create a standard. So the standards we're going to talk about today, in our view, meet these 4 criteria for an open standard. And of course, once you get the open standards in the market and they're circulating, it's good for everybody, okay? Overall, an open standard will help to drive growth in that specific industry, okay? It enables more companies to play nice together, to expand the choices for end users, okay? It does spur innovation. JCI is, I guess, considered one of the larger companies in the market, but, smaller companies now can get in there quicker, if they can write something to an open standard, well, guess what? They have a lot of acceptance right away versus having to write their own proprietary protocol and persuading other companies to adopt it. Okay, so innovation really, grows when you have an open standard. And finally, from the manufacturer's point of view, we love them. I wish there was an open standard for elevator drivers, right, Ashley? We have to write one for every separate elevator. If we can reduce time and write, one protocol development to all readers, then that's a win for us. And for the integrators, okay, maybe it's not as apparent, but there is some savings in reducing training time. If you have an open standard to, readers, for example, if they all use that same standard, that's one set of troubleshooting to get trained on, and one set of wiring, one set of, field installation techniques, versus every manufacturer having their own, different way of doing things. So on the right here, you can see some fairly well-established open standards in the technology industry. We all use Power over Ethernet for our iStar Edge controllers, for phones, for cameras, you name it. And that came together as a proper open standard supported by IEEE. And it's on its third iteration now. This new BT standard, by the way, gives us a good 60 watts per port. So when you see the new Edge G2, you'll know why that's important for us. SNMP, TCP/IP, those have been around for years, supported by the IETF, and even smart cards, that's an IEC standard. 14443 defines your physical and your application commands back and forth between a card and a device. So that's the groundwork for open standards. In our specific access control world, we've identified three that we're going to cover today. One is between the field device and the controller. This is our OSDP focus. There's also the idea of sharing credentials, personnel records between different systems in a nice logical way. That's the PLAI interface, which Jason's going to cover for us. And then between access control and other systems, like a building management system, that's BACnet standard. And then I have one last slide on some others that we're considering. I'll get your feedback on those, ONVIF and OSS. Okay, so let's jump into OSDP. Okay, Open Supervised Device Protocol. Okay, OSDP is a lot easier to say. And this started off life in 2011. So it's been percolating for years. And it's a field level device protocol between readers, biometric devices, and your typical control panel, your iStars, for example. So it's a way to standardize and improve upon the current Wiegand protocol for readers. And it does meet the criteria of an open standards organization, right? The SIA supports it. In fact, we have a member on the working group to help revise a standard, improve it, meet regularly, get that standard updated. And the good news here is that it was recently approved as an official worldwide IEC standard. And that is coming next month, as a matter of fact. So OSDP has really gained a lot of traction in the last few years, let's put it that way. Okay, 2.1.7 is the current standard. 2.2 is on its way. That's one that's being published next month. Okay, in case somebody knows, that's the current standard rev. Okay, you can get it on the SIA website. Okay, I download a copy, look at all the commands. And the benefits somewhat mirror the overall open standard benefits, right? It is open. You can buy a reader from company X, company Y, company Z, hook them up to your iStar with a few caveats, okay? They'll work. It does offer encryption, okay? It's a nice AES 128 symmetric encryption going on between the units. It's not just for card read commands, it does wiring tamper in the same wires. You get comm alarms, you get LED control, you get custom text messages. So it's one level above the standard offering of a Wiegand interface. And the last point, I don't really like it when manufacturers do this, but there is the availability to write your own extensions as a manufacturer. We haven't done any yet ourselves. Some reader companies have, but by its nature, these things make it a non-standard if too many people do it. So yeah, it's a great protocol. Just want to take a step back as to, the first reason this came into being was the vulnerabilities in Wiegand. The Wiegand signal is unencrypted. It's in plain text, or ones and zeros, basically. And there has been a sniffing device created a few years ago where you basically intercept the Wiegand wires and insert this thing behind the reader, okay? And it collects card reads. And then when the bad guy comes back to the site, he can command this thing into replay mode via a phone and Bluetooth connection. Now he's replaying those card swipes to that same panel, as if he's presenting cards. Okay, so that is the driving force, I think, behind OSDP. And I got a little video clip. Okay, this is a demo of that sniffer device. Okay, he has an HID reader, or a good old Prox Pro reader. He takes it off. Okay, this is in a lab, so it's not quite a field test here, but still, let's see what he does. Okay, he just kind of does a punch down on the data 1, the data 0, and the ground. Doesn't have to remove wires or unscrew anything, just punches it down. Okay, he's down to 22 seconds. He's trying to do it in under a minute. Let's see if he makes it. Okay, last wire. Looks like he's done here. He shoves it all back in, puts the cover on. 3 seconds to go. There he goes. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, now he's presenting a card. Okay, now he's putting it back into, looks like playback mode here. And there he goes. Unlocks the door. Yeah, so the command from the phone caused that device to now go into playback mode, and there we go. So that's sort of the background. Just thought it was interesting to point that out as we move ahead with OSDP. So as far as Secure, we've supported OSDP since Rev 2.5 of Secure 9000. It's just on the iStar Ultra family, not in the Pro or the Edge. The new Edge G2 will have it, but today it's the Ultras and the IP ACM that supports it. And the first Rev came out with the basic feature set. We had card data, LEDs, we had the reader tamper in there, comm loss alarms you could alert on. And we even displayed the reader firmware rev from that field device back into Secure, so you can see what rev you're at. Okay, here's look at the screen there of a reader device in Secure. We had the secure channel enabled in there from day one, right? Because that's the main driving force of OSDP adoption. And we did the automatic switch of the keys. Okay, some other companies, you have to program in a static key in the device. With us, we sent down the key set command to the readers to switch to the new key. First phase was point-to-point. Now we support multi-drop on the readers. And you had a little speed selection option here. I mean, for most applications, 9600 baud is fine. It's not that much data going back and forth anyways. As far as wiring, here's where it looks the same on a layout, but the actual line is only 4 wires, not 6 for a Wiegand. And if you have 2 readers, you can, have them on the same line with multi-drop, right? Address 0, address 1, there we go. The same 4 wires, 2 for data and 2 for power. On the IP ACMs, it's a smaller run, but still it's from the reader to the module. It's the OSDP, 4-wire connection. Okay, for the techies, here's the point-to-point. Again, pretty simple, right? 4 wires on each side. The only thing here is that we have had some experience with the HID readers. If you get the pigtail version, there's a tan and a brown, and there's like 15 different colors, right? Well, a lot of times the brown looks like tan. So if you hook up the brown wire, it's not going to work. And you got to hook up the tan for that, data minus terminal. Okay, here's, the Schlage readers, same thing, red and black for power, pink and tan for their data. Okay, we have had the question on upgrades. If you have a Wiegand reader with the Wiegand wiring, can you leave the wiring in place? And in our opinion, in most cases you can. We've done some testing in our lab, and it's been fine. If you have shielding on it, even better. You know, most Wiegand should have been installed with shielded wire, so that will help to, you know, make sure you have that, you know, good connection off to the reader. Okay, so simple wiring arrangement. We're good to go. I want to cover the enhancements. So we had 2.5 out, OSDP support for the basic feature set. 2.7 came along, and we had a second nice feature set included for OSDP. First off, we did the multi-drop support, so you have up to 8 readers per port on OSDP. I wouldn't recommend it if you can avoid it. I mean, 2 is fine for entry-exit. If you can, I'd still say to keep your readers separated just for troubleshooting purposes. And we also added a higher baud rate, mainly for our high assurance support, because in the high assurance world, you're sharing biometric templates and other you know, bigger data packets. So the high speed did improve our performance in that realm. Then SP2 came along, and here's where we have a lot of nice features. Okay, the first off was the ability to customize the LEDs and the beeper and the text on those units. And that was like the main voice of customer from the previous rep. I want to control my LEDs the way they used to be, you know, on the whatever readers I had. So we extended out the LCD message set that you use for text messages on RM readers. And now you can use that same template to control the LEDs, color 1, color 2, the LED pattern, the beep pattern. You can customize 7 different door states. Okay, the main door states we thought would be in need of customization: door held, door forced, access grant, access denied, that sort of thing. So that was a big improvement, you know, for end users to be able to customize that user experience. Yeah, here's just a little close-up of that form. You can see there's like some pre-selections there. The OSDP standard defines 4 colors. They are working to add to the color palette, by the way, but for right now it's red, green, amber, and blue. Amber being kind of a yellow color. The patterns are predefined patterns inside the iStar. Okay, we're just exposing them now as selections there. Okay. So, and then finally in 2.7, we increased the security of there. We diversified the keys down to the devices, so it's not the same key everywhere. And we gave you the option to turn off that installer mode to do that key set command to lock things up when you're done. Okay. And we also are one of the first manufacturers to support inputs and outputs on the back of a reader via OSDP. So on the Intermetrics, for example, you can attach your door switch, your Rex to the back of the reader. That comes through on the OSDP lines. Okay, and yeah, the Cheetahs, the Cheetah SE from Intermetrics are great choices. You can do RM mode or OSDP mode. Get the same operation and functions in each one. Okay, and here's just a summary. You can see the feature sets for this phase 1 and phase 2 of our OSDP feature set. I mentioned high assurance here. Okay, in the U.S. government market and now spilling over into some commercial customers, we have our high assurance feature set with Intermetrics. It's not just the readers, it's an ID server to check certificates on smart cards, on the FICAM data model cards. And we chose to use OSDP for that enhanced protocol support for the high assurance. Again, it's open. So we worked with the committees and got some new commands going to do the extra PKI commands, because in high assurance, as we know, every time we swipe a card, we don't just read the data from the card, we first do an authentication check with the public key and do a random, mutual authentication pass, and then we read the data. So all that mutual authentication passing, if you will, is going back and forth between the reader and the panel, in this case via OSDP. So it's not just in the metrics. We also support wavelengths and Schlag, and we're working with Verid, so we can offer choice, just like the open standard goals stated, right? To offer choice, for the readers here. So we're very pleased with how OSDP is working out for us. So we're all in. We are on the committee. We have a good roadmap of OSDP coming up. Next few slides. Actually, maybe we should pause. Actually, are there any questions so far from the audience?
Yeah, I saw one question, Rick. What are the plans for the iStar support of OSDP version 2.2?
Okay. Well, yeah, the 2.2 standard I mentioned there's not much of a change. We have a guy, again, on the committee, he's looking at it. He told me it's basically just formatting it into the IEC document standard. 2.2.1 is going to have some more features. I hope they're going to have the supervised input feature in there, because right now inputs are just on off. That was sort of an oops by the committee. So yeah, we'll look at the standard when it formally comes out, make sure we can conform to it. So I just want to go over some of the configuration in Secure. It's again very easy, just like the wiring. You basically go into the device port of your iStar and tell it, hey, I'm an OSDP port, right? And you then go to the reader there and enable the the tamper and the COMFAIL inputs and add your card format like normal. And that is it. If you do want to customize things, you then go in and create a reader LCD message set, okay, and knock yourself out with the patterns and colors and whatnot. It is one per panel, one message set per panel, not per reader, by the way. But it hasn't been an issue so far. I mean, normally you want to have the same patterns on all the readers on a panel anyways. Okay. I'm sorry, were there any other questions, Ashley, or was that it?
That's it so far.
So far, okay. Good. Well, as far as readers, we always get the question, what readers are compatible? Of course, theoretically, all readers that support OSDP secure channel should be compatible, right? But we all know that there are some interpretation differences of the spec, and it's really good just to make sure they're tested. If you have a reader that you're not sure about, just hook it up. Give it a trial before you buy 100 of them, and go to the job site to try to get them to work. So we did start off our development way back working with HID, being the market leaders. So we have tested and confirmed the SE readers work fine with the secure channel, with the various other parameters, the baud rate, the COMFAIL comes in. The only thing is, though, if you buy one off the shelf, not from Software House, you'll probably get it with secure channel turned off. So you have to get a config card and turn it on, or you can maybe use their newer reader manager app to turn it on. Okay, so just a little caveat, beware, for some reason HID thinks that unencrypted should be the default. Go figure. So there's the lineup of readers that we have been working with, testing. There's basically 5 that we've gone through the full QA test plan by our group in Westford, Mass. Right? Of course, our own Metrics, the HID, the Schlag readers, INID. That's a smaller company from Europe, and Wavelinks. We have also started working with the new HID readers. So far, so good, but haven't really been through the full rigor yet of a test plan. Third Millennium is in Europe, started with them. And the new Deister/Software 6000 readers, which are launching later on this summer, are going through some tests as well. And then there are some others that we're kind of keeping an eye on, but we haven't tested ourselves. Idesco from Finland, Suprema and Morpho on the biometric side, they have claimed that they're all set, but we haven't seen it in our lab yet. So that's why it's listed here, but it's tested by others. So it's a little bit more risk, I guess, on that. And there's others coming in, you know, that we're asked to help test and verify. Okay. On the troubleshooting side, you know, there's lights. You know, there's little lights at each port. Here's a close-up of the ACM board. You know, if your, you know, OSDP COM port is functioning properly, those lights are going to be buzzing on and off, you know, all day long, right? If they buzz on and, you know, then stop for a few seconds and buzz on again, it's probably a key exchange issue. I do want to add some more troubleshooting notes in our interface, but for now, those lights are key to what's going on. Okay. And finally, you know, roadmap. You know, OSDP is constantly evolving. You know, these aren't committed features, but they're ones that we're actively scoping out. You know, the ability to change the keys automatically via a schedule, possibly. That's been an ask from customers to upgrade the reader firmware, you know, through the system and not through a local handheld tool. That's a great labor savings idea. Biometric template management. We are working to extend our Inametrics template and matching to the non-high assurance market. You know, we have 90% done. Why not? And then there's finally a need for just basic I/O boards that operate on OSDP. You know, the i8s and R8s cannot be upgraded for OSDP, so we do have a little need there to get some nice I/O boards going. Okay, finally, here's some questions we get from the field. Again, we answered the first one. Can I swap out an existing Wiegand reader with OSDP? Right at the end, the short answer is yes. You can usually reuse the wiring. You will have to reprogram the reader object. You have to delete the Wiegand reader and then add in an OSDP reader in Secure. Although we are working on a little tool that will make that more of an automatic thing. And same with an RM reader, right? You can swap it out. If the RM reader had the I/O in the back, great. Use an Inametrics reader instead and get the same I/O functionality. If you have i8s and R8s though, just look at the overall wiring and see what the best way is to lay it out. You might have to save a port on your ACM just for RM devices. Have the rest available for OSDP devices. Okay, I guess I'll pause here and ask again any questions that have come in.
Rick, we did get one. How is address 1 set on the reader?
Good point. Right now it is with a local app. You know, HID has their reader manager app. Others have their own apps. There's also some config cards. In fact, we have one in our price book for HID that will set the address to 1 from 0. So you go up to the reader and just put the config card and it, you know, changes the address to 1. You cannot change the reader's address, you know, through Secure at this time. So is that it?
That's all for now.
Okay, well, great. Let's move on. I believe Jason is standing by.
Standing by.
Okay, so we dive into a whole different topic here on the front end, the idea of sharing credentials.
Absolutely. So you can take us to the next slide, Rick. There was just recently as well a virtual demonstration that was provided between a number of different manufacturers leveraging the Physical Security Interoperability Alliance standard called PLAI, Physical-Logical. I'm going to lose my Physical-Logical Access Interoperability, right? Too many acronyms. But so those manufacturers all demonstrated successfully through many different locations, from Texas to Massachusetts. We had one connected from Switzerland. We had New Jersey, right? So there was a lot of different places, especially because people are working from home and dealing with various quarantine states. But a very real world example of connecting through a wide area network and demonstrating how to synchronize credentials across what would be a very competitive landscape, and that doesn't happen outside of open standards, right? As Rick sort of kicked off here at the beginning of the presentation, you talk about a problem, meaning complex enterprises through acquisitions and divestitures and other means where all of a sudden you end up in a multi-physical access control or what we call PACS environment, and potentially integrating multiple biometric devices or even as it goes beyond that into things like visitor management and destination dispatch elevator, all of them looking to share information about individuals and physical credentials. And so a real problem exists in the market of how this information gets shared in an easier way. And so ultimately in 2008, PSIA founded this open standards body, which became focused and has now provided the specifications, which are freely available, for the physical-logical access interoperability and how through open standards this information could be shared. Now, the last bullet on this slide talks about leveraging an authoritative source for the identities or the personnel side of things, and that comes from LDAP compliance version 3 or newer. I do want to just give an update that as there are several providers of what's called the PLAI agent, which is the sort of the heart of the synchronization of all the data. One of the versions of that PLAI agent, which is provided by a company called Cruitech, last week has added and released in their version of the agent the ability to not just have LDAP as the protocol for the authoritative source, but the ability to connect and use one of the PACs or a standard ODBC connection, or so added some flexibility as to where you point your authoritative source to. That really adds a nice benefit to the mix. So but of course still supports LDAP and things like Active Directory, which is what we used. We used an Azure-based Active Directory for the virtual demo that was done about a week ago. You can go to the next slide, Rick. So again, true open standard, and as we talked about, really focused on personnel and credentials, being able to share that information across multiple physical access control systems, and as well being able to provide integration across multiple biometric third-party devices. And again, the standards body is moving towards the expansion of coverage for things like visitor management and destination dispatch elevators as well, given the commonality of the information that needs to be shared. The diagram to the right really kind of gives a nice graphic of how things flow. So you have your authoritative source. The PLAI agent grabs a copy of all of the identities from that location and then replicates those to all of the adapters that are connected. And as you see in this example on the left side, where Secure 9000 with its built-in adapter, natively built into when you install that option, it it shows up in your server config app as one of the services like an iStar driver that you just are able to start and stop. And that then within your Secure 9000 admin allows you to configure in the GUI, the agent that you're connecting to, and then begin to do the synchronization and then pulls that information in. Now, one of the unique things, because people say, well, listen, you know, Secure supports LDAP and Secure supports ODBC and other ways of connecting and synchronizing data, and so do other PACS. So why do I need PLAI when I could just point both systems to the same authoritative source? But one of the other things that's true about the standard is the way that there's an ownership model that helps to reduce conflict. So when you're integrating the adapter from Secure 9000 with the agent and it's pulling personnel records, it doesn't allow you to any longer make changes in Secure to the fields that are owned by the authoritative source. And that is one way that you avoid creating ongoing conflicts and helps to keep the data clean. And then beyond that, the credentials, which are owned at the PACS level, get created in the PACS and are then sent as a copy up to the agent and then able to synchronize to other adapters. And it includes the details necessary for understanding the card formats that are being used. And through the support of what's called raw bits allows the various PACS, in case, you know, one site is using readers, for instance, that strip off parity bits, and another one is including parity bits. And the raw bit stream allows us to deal with those complexities and do the interpretation at the adapter level so that we can truly share these across PACSes. And you know, for those of you that are and have been around the access control industry for any length of time, you know that this can be like a full-time effort for some people. And I know within our organization, you know, if anybody, you know, here recognizes the name George Texera, he's you know, he's kind of known as our card format guy, right? Any of the tough challenges and you know, calls end up going to him, and he spends sometimes hours and days helping people understand the compatibility of credentials across systems. And so having an open standard way of being able to do that certainly brings a lot of benefit, and back to the purposes of an open standard, has a problem that really needs to be solved. Next slide, Rick. So, you know, this slide really just speaks to, you know, the core of what Rick teed up at the beginning of this presentation and some of the benefits of proprietary versus an open standard or open protocol. And, you know, while proprietary, you know, certainly can give you additional cost as a manufacturer, you know, your ongoing maintenance to be able to support and upgrade and do all of those various changes, but it does allow you to do more complex and deeper level things because you're controlling the destiny end to end. So, you know, there's a cost for it, but there's definitely is some benefits to proprietary. But when it comes to scale, you know, open standards really is what it takes to achieve greater scale, but because it brings down the maintenance and brings a simplicity to how things can interact together. And the OSDP was a great example of solving a complex problem and trying to bring everybody together and doing it in a common way. So, and this would be no different. So, you know, it can simplify, bring down, so you're now testing and understanding how to integrate to multiple things using one protocol. So that definitely can bring down cost and installation and all kinds of aspects of things. But on the flip side, you know, a standard has its limits. It doesn't allow you to get too far outside the bounds without losing the openness. And so there may be some limits to the things you can do. And for instance, with the PLAI specification, it is about the creating, reading, updating, deleting, or commonly in the industry known as the CRUD operations, you know, for the personnel and the credentials. And
is that a real acronym?
It is a real acronym, actually.
I did not know that.
it is CRUD. Yep. So those are things to understand, and some of the advantages and disadvantages of proprietary versus open standards and protocols. Next slide, Rick. Okay, so how does this magic work with PLAI? So it's really all based on the RESTful API, very, very standard in the industry today in terms of how things get done through web services. The agent then through the RESTful web services to the adapters is able to synchronize information, and this slide really kind of hits this ownership model. So the agent provides the pass-through for all of the identities, and so that's owned by the authoritative source, and everybody else is just dealing with updated copies of. So if you want to change a last name, you want to change a middle initial or anything else to do with the personnel fields, the groups they're part of, that's all done through the authoritative source, and then all of the adapters that are integrated are updated from that one single point. And on the flip side, the credential is owned by the PACS. So for instance, if in Secure 9000 I create an I-class credential with a particular facility code, and then as soon as I save that in Secure, that information is pushed up to the agent. The agent now has a copy of that information and makes it available to all the other adapters. So if I had an AMAG or an OnGuard system or a Genetec system that was integrated and all linked together using the PLAI open specification, that I-class card that was created in Secure is now available to be assigned, and leveraging the groups from the authoritative source, which become in the world of Secure a clearance or an access level, or whatever the terms are for the various other PACS providers. So we can have a common grouping that says, for instance, all front doors or security staff, right? Or whatever that grouping is going to be. And locally at the PACS, you define exactly what doors that means. But the groups are common shared across all of the PACS and then controlled through that authoritative source. But the credential now is updated, so the one that came from Secure is now being used, for instance, in OnGuard. And in OnGuard, well, they determine what doors that means uniquely. If I make a change to reissue and change the issue code for that card, or update a facility code or modify the credential number, that's done by the PACS that owns it, and then that information shared so that I'm not having to deal with the multiple badging challenges, and it's all done by one ownership model. So ownership is done from two different views, but always respected that the owner is the one that makes the changes and everybody else just gets the copy of it. Next slide. So this is a slide that actually talks about the virtual demo that we did again just maybe about a week and a half ago. So we used the Microsoft Azure Active Directory for the LDAP authoritative source. We had Cruitex PLAI agent. Again, there are other agents that are available. There's one from Castle Systems. AMAG is also going to be coming out with a version of an agent as well. But these are all open standards, so it doesn't matter whose agent you put in place. Once that agent is there, all of the adapters that have been met to compliance will connect and synchronize. So that Cruitech agent was running from Dublin, Ireland, and then we had the Linnell S2 with OnGuard connected from Rochester, New York. AMAG was connecting from New Jersey with their Symmetry product. We had the Secure 9000, which was connected from my home in Sterling, Mass. And I also was carrying the IDEMIA Morpho Wave biometric integration from my site as well. We had Monitor Dynamics from San Antonio, Texas, with a PACS system. iLock, again, with the biometric with Iris. And then Siemens with their CPAS product, which was actually connecting from Switzerland. So it was quite the mix, but a good number of players here that were all going through and demonstrating how we could take the same identities. There were 82 identities, I believe, we synchronized in that. And there was actually an unintended thing that happened during that demonstration, which in the end really showed something important that we weren't really planning to cover. So my internet provider hiccuped in the middle of the demo, it actually happened twice within a couple of minutes. But so the router went out, and I completely lost my internet connectivity, was disconnected from the demonstration. And then once I got recovered, then all of those records and updates were synchronized back to Secure 9000, and it was done very quickly. And so, throughout the hour long of the demo, there were 2 moments where an adapter completely dropped out, reconnected, resynchronized, and fully recovered to be back in sync with the enterprise. And and again, while it wasn't planned, it actually showed something really important and neat in terms of how things occur when things don't go necessarily as smoothly as you'd hope. So, so a really strong demonstration. Next slide. Okay, so, and then again, just sort of the summary of how all of this flows together. And, so it is the authoritative source. The copy of that information is then replicated to the PLAI agent that is managing the synchronization across all of the adapters. The credentials are owned by the PACS, pushed the opposite direction from the adapter up to the agent and then across to all other adapters. And this whole thing respecting the ownership model. And I think there's one more slide from me there, Rick.
All about ownership.
Yep. And that is it. That's kind of the secret about how we help minimize conflict. Which, as soon as you say synchronization, conflict is usually the next word that comes into play. All pun intended. So use cases for today. Any customer that is across multiple PACS and and having to deal with potentially multiple badging issues or any of those challenges. If you're using biometrics to do integration across multiple PACS, and how do I simplify and reuse the credential connection for those biometrics, and to provide a single enrollment. So if I'm doing fingerprint enrollment on one PACS, how do I not have to replicate that fingerprint enrollment, but get the benefit of using that at another PACS? And visitor management purely for the identity side can also be done today using PLAI and its current standard version. We're also with a roadmap and the PLAI board members working towards the next set of features, which is to include alarms and events across PACS, the destination dispatch elevators, and as well the ability to support multiple authoritative sources. And in particular, this is where you have your contract and visitors that won't be necessarily in an Active Directory or a company-owned resource, and so you need to be able to have multiple feeds into the PLAI agent that allows us to manage all of those identities. So those are all things that are being worked right now by the standards body to add value to PLAI. So with that, Rick, I'm going to pass, or unless there's any questions, Ashley.
Yeah, we did get a few questions regarding PLAI. The first one is, does PLAI employee data include photos?
So the current and what we did in the demo was not including photos, but that is extendable and definable. So photos can be included with the information that's shared. The only thing to be aware of, and it's no different than if you're dealing, for instance, with a Secure 9000 enterprise, is as soon as you start saying images, and images are tend to be larger than the standard text data that you pass around. So if you're using extremely large images and you're going to do an initial synchronization of 100,000 personnel, you really need to make sure you've got your plans set across for the length of time that's going to take, and because images definitely add a level of complexity, but it is possible.
Okay. And is TWIC considered an open standard design? And if so, which open standard?
Is TWIC meaning the government credential? TWIC?
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an open standard. That's US FICAM, FIPS 201, HSPD 12 induced standard, and the data fields and tags are all publicly available.
Right. Now to us,
yeah.
TWIC for PLAI becomes a particular card format, right? So whether it's high assurance or I-class or MyFair or Wiegand or whatever the card format is, right? That definition is what we would be providing along with the card number that is defined in the TWIC format, as well as maybe, you know, facility code, issue codes, those type of fields. So that, you know, the TWIC being the definition of a type of credential, but PLAI being able to replicate that across multiple packs if that's required.
Okay, great. We got a few more minutes here to touch on BACnet, right? I don't have that many slides here, I guess maybe because BACnet's not quite as popular as OSDP or PLAI, but it's still it's an open standard, it's available, it is on the rise. I must say, we've had the integration out for probably 3 or 4 years, and now we're finally getting to see some customers really using it. So basically, BACnet started off life as a way to share information between your disparate building automation systems. You know, a Honeywell didn't used to talk to a Johnson Controls, which didn't used to talk to a Siemens. BACnet was the answer to that market need. It's grown in scope over the years to include other things like, you know, fire systems and lighting, and there's even an access control standard within BACnet, but that I believe it's been dropped. No one's been, you know, adopting to it. So yeah, the standard is, you know, by a standards body. You know, ANSI and ASHRAE both have it as a published standard. And with Secure, we do the BACnet over IP version versus, you know, over 2 wires or, you know, master slave token passing. We just do the standard BACnet IP. Okay, but yeah, the main use case is to have Secure share information, whether it's information into Secure from your building automation system, like, you know, temperatures and alarms, dirty filter alarms, for example. And the other use would be Secure information sharing into the, you know, third-party BMS system, you know, occupancy counts or door alarms. It all depends on which system is the ultimate monitoring device. You know, especially at night, sometimes if the security system is manned overnight, they'll have the flow go into Secure, you know, versus the other way around. But, you know, the BACnet integration we have, it does support either way of information sharing. We do support not all, but the most common object types. And we are in the process of upgrading the internal polling mechanisms. Right now, we're publishing up to 2,000 BACnet objects can be shared. And you might think that's a lot, but some jobs have already exceeded that. So we are in the midst of a nice enhancement to the BACnet driver. So as far as what's coming into Secure, you know, you can see the screen here. You can see boilers, chillers, status, coolers, whatever information can be discovered and mapped into Secure from a BACnet device can be shown. So you can, you know, look at the values, look at statuses. You can send actions back from Secure into a BACnet system to turn on things or turn off things. And there's events you can trigger, you know, to change present value properties, for example, of a BACnet object. So again, this is more for Secure controlling, you know, the BMS functions, okay, even maybe a subset of the overall functions, okay. We do that by an automatic discovery method, and once they're discovered, you pick the points that you want to have exposed in Secure, okay. Then on the other side, you know, Secure information can be offered up to, you know, BACnet front end, and we do that by this feature called the BACnet gateway. So the Secure objects become BACnet objects through this gateway, which basically offers them up to this other system to discover. You know, so here's some examples. You know, real-time people counting from the iStar areas can be sent along. You know, the alarms from Secure can be sent along. So yeah, you can map out which pieces of information you want to go, you know, back to that third-party system. So that's all I had on the BACnet front, just to touch on it. And if you have some customers that want to use it, I would recommend to get a copy of the driver and play with it in your lab first. Maybe get a copy of the third-party BMS system. There's some tools out there that can help you to simulate BACnet objects as well from companies like Symmetrix and PolarSoft. But that's it for BACnet. It's open standard to keep in our toolkit. I have one more slide just on some standards that we have not yet implemented in the access control world, but they're out there. There's one ONVIF. We have implemented that on the camera side. The name implies cameras, right? Open Network Video Interface Forum, but there are some more recent access control portions of the standard that cover configuration of access control readers and panels, how you share alarms and events, how you manage personnel and add a clearance or privilege in this case. So that's one that's out there. It's not as widely adopted yet as some might have thought, but it is something that we are looking into. And then there's one OSS, Operational Security Standards Association. That's based in Europe. I believe it's in Germany for the headquarters. And they have focused on offline locks to start. They have about 20 members, and the goal there is to, again, break away from proprietary offline lock systems. So if I buy a brand X lock, I can use my card from brand Y's lock and use it on brand X. Right now, the industry is very siloed in that effect. If you buy into one brand of offline locks, you're stuck. Your card is, configured and encoded just for that one type of offline lock. So there's a need there, but in my opinion, it's still fairly early days. So look at that. It's right at the top of the hour. That's pretty good timing. Do you have any questions, Ashley?
Yeah, let's try to grab a couple questions before we end. One of the questions that came in is, how is the BACnet option sold? So that is a licensed option for Software House. So we have a small, medium, and large license, and that would be in the price book. So your ASM should be able to help you there. Jason, today, what is the protocol for the PLAI agent and driver? Is that through professional services?
Ashley, ask the question one more time, sorry.
How do you buy it, right?
How do you buy the PLAI agent and driver?
Yeah, so the adapter is something that you purchase through each of the PACS manufacturers, like any integrated option. So similar to your BACnet conversation, it is a licensable option for the product. The PLAI agent is also able to be provided through Software House as a resell or directly through Cruatech.
Okay, and is that sold by number of cardholders, or is there a different method of how that's?
Yeah, it's done by the number of identities, not by number of credentials.
Okay. All right. And Rick, one last one on OSDP. What is the support for both the EX and Edge panels?
Well, that's an easy one. There is no OSDP support directly on those panels, on the iStar Edge and iStar EX. If you really had to use OSDP readers on those panels, you could buy, there's some third-party converters. It's a OSDP to Wiegand device, and you'd mount those in the panel. It would convert back into Wiegand for those panels to understand it. You don't get all the features of a nice native OSDP implementation, but it does give you an option, put it that way.
Okay, great. All right, that closes out our questions. Thank you both, Rick and Jason.
Yeah, great. Well, yeah, thank you everyone for your time. I hope we've shed some light on some of the standards that we're implementing and working on. And as always, please give us your feedback on what you see in the market and features you need, other standards to look at. We do believe that is the way to go. and we just see the need for open standards increasing.
And one more quick note, we are going to be having a webinar, I believe it's on July 9th. Rick, is that the correct date? And that's going to be on
Yes.
readers in the Software House
Yeah,
portal.
Right, we're gonna take a break here for a few weeks. You probably are getting all, fatigued with all the webinars we've been doing, but we had great attendance and really appreciate it. The webinar series will start up July 9th with a nice overview of the biometric offerings, and the 16th we have same type of treatment for wireless locks. Okay, so great. Well, thank you, and that'll end the webinar.
All right, thank you.